Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting for January 9th, 2024. Happy New Year, everybody. Get ready for the cold. Here it comes. We also have one amendment for the agenda, which is number 7, the admin report 23-23, contract award for the purchase of a submersible pump. So with that amendment, could I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Hensler. Thank you, Councillor Paquette. All in favor? Carried.
Yeah.
Number 2 on the agenda is a motion to adopt the draft minutes from the regular meeting of December 19th, 2023.
Make a motion to adopt the minutes from the regular meeting on December 19th, 2023.
I'll second. Thank you, Councillor Slager. Thank you, Councillor Burtis. Any questions or comments?
No.
None for me.
All in favor? Carried. Motion to pay the open payables in the amount of $132,445.18.
I'll make a motion to pay the open payables.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Henshaw. Thank you, Councillor. Questions or comments?
Only one for me is 61821. 61821.
And you know what it is, but
Yeah, that is the
Have one, but-
6 month lease for Quorum and Cold Storage.
Okay,
Sorry, I did have one, my thing won't.
yes.
Sorry,
Sorry.
it was 61828. I was just curious.
828.
Yeah,
Northern Avcom, that is new radios for the fire department.
okay, thanks. So low, that's.
Worship on fire department. I didn't want to have 61818.
That's what we're giggling about.
Oh,
Might as well now.
Crackmaster Distributions.
Yes.
illegal.
It's a small amount though.
It is. And it is supplies for windshield replacement.
Okay, with no other questions, all in favor? Carried. Next on our agenda, we have the RCMP. Welcome, good evening, come on forward. Don't be shy, we don't bite. Welcome to the hot seat.
Right on the square. Yeah. Can't go anywhere with them. Yeah. So we have Derek Russell here. He's coming from Adelaide, Saskatchewan. And I'm here with him. So I'll let him introduce himself. And
Where's Saskatchewan, sorry?
in Adelaide, it's about an hour outside of Regina to the south. So it was a little sleepy hollow after it was in Lolosh,
Oh.
Saskatchewan. So I have 7 years on course. I'm gonna get a cadet in February to train up here. I do have First Nations policing experience under my belt. I'm extremely excited to be a part of the community here. I have a wife and 2 kids. My wife's already taken my oldest daughter to like multiple events throughout the town, and she's really excited to become her kids to play with other kids finally. So I'm very outgoing. I'm very honest. If anybody stops me on the street to chat, I will chat. It's as simple as that. I was in the military before I joined the RCP. I'm hoping that I'm going to be helping with the youth as well. I know Hunter is the primary on that. I'm going to be helping them out with that. So if we can get some recruited here, that would be awesome. So, and then I'm gonna be looking to do some programs within the community with the assistance of the RCMP. For the curling tournament, I do, I don't know if you've ever heard of an Operation Red Nose. It's where somebody drives you and your vehicle home instead of you driving impaired. So that's something that we can look at for that weekend, and then if it's a success. Things, so those are just some things that I'm thinking about.
Awesome.
So, but if there's any suggestions or anything, I'm all ears.
That's great.
Thank you.
Questions for me?
Thank you and welcome. And, go ahead, Councilor Slade.
I was gonna say, how old are your kids?
1.5 and 3 months.
Gotcha.
Busy.
Yes.
We're high school students.
No, that's what I was kind of curious about. But,
And your wife, what kind of experience? did she have?
She's a RN, but she's gonna be staying at home with the kids for at least a little while here, so.
Okay,
I'm trying to slowly convince her to start taking some work at the hospital. She's reluctant right now.
fair enough.
I'll keep working on
Yeah, good.
it.
There's always a need for nurses.
You always
Right.
there?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, again, welcome. We're excited to have you.
Thank you.
Glad you're excited to be here. Sorry, the timing wasn't so great, but it is what it is, right? Yeah, and yeah, that's all we can say. I mean, it's gonna be a great year, I'm sure. There's lots going on, and I appreciate your open and honesty and your willingness to be a part of the community. That's huge with the RCMP. It always is. The turnover sucks usually. You know, we get to know people in 3 years, and sometimes we like them. So then they always have to leave, you know, and we, you know, it's hard. So it's good that people like to be a part of the community, and it takes a lot, so.
Hoping I'll be one you like.
We'll see.
Time will tell.
And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so looking at the last year, our total complaints to the detachment was increased to 1,722 over the previous year, which was 1,489. Going through a lot of it, the increase I've seen was in thefts causing service mischief. So that would be like someone running down the street yelling, screaming, or being drunk in public, or someone intoxicated at someone's house and refusing to leave. So we've seen an increase of that. Our violent crimes, so like the assaults, the threats have dropped. Assaults have dropped by almost 40 assaults altogether. Traffic offenses are the biggest increase that we've seen, and that was because that was one of our initiatives through the APP this last year, which will be coming up come April 1st beginning. So I wanted to start that conversation now and kind of feel what the town would like to see from the RCMP coming forward this next fiscal year. Previous one we had was of course, the community relations, which, you know, we can continue building on that, of course. Traffic safety and offender management was the 3 that were identified last year. For staffing levels, so we have a couple identified. They've signed a document saying that they're wanting to come here. They're coming from Saskatchewan. He's been in the rank for about 4 or 5 years now. So he's coming in here with some experience, which is going to be good public attachment. We're just waiting for his IP medical as well as the sale of his house. So we're expecting him to be in roughly around the springtime, just before the busy period of the summer. And with that, Brandon Gilroy will be the acting local until the position is filled. So it's kind of the wrap up of like the year that we've got there. It's nice to see things are kind of moving along. And, you know, we're looking at our crime stats. It's not a huge change besides the proactive files now starting to show up.
Nodding my head, I guess. Thank you. Go ahead, Councilor.
2 questions. What are the possibilities of a former member returning to a northern community? Thinking of like Pickett's and Arthur in particular. Does that happen, or they pretty much, once you've been in a place, I don't know, once they don't allow you to go back, but they would like to put you somewhere else?
No, so the forces changed a lot, especially in the last, I would say 2 to 3 years. It's now shifting to the way of where the needs are. The biggest thing is releasability. So when like for the Yukon M division, essentially they own us now that we've come here. for us to leave to go to another area. So if I wanted to go down to BC, they would owe us a body back for that position. So there's a lot of wheeling and dealing. So for an example, for Curtis himself, we had to move bodies from BC to Alberta, from Alberta to Saskatchewan for Curtis to come up to here. So that's kind of it. But if there is that drive and that want, there is a lot of ways we can work with our staff at Whiteforce and get people back here, especially if we know who they are, they work up here. They're a solid worker and they're good in the community. Why would we want to bring them back?
Yeah, I just thought maybe there was some law, like not a law, but like that unwritten rule, like
Rules, yeah.
done. Cause it was my understanding that the reason why they transferred you after 3 years was so you didn't play favorites, if you will.
No, and that's gonna change too. Now, I'm looking at the extensions. I know it's a case by case basis. And a lot of it comes down to, like, if someone wanted to stay and wants to like longer than the 3 years, it's a year review. And as long as you have the support from the district officer, the detached commander, and the community, there's no reason why we have someone we want.
Gotcha.
Especially if it's working well. Now, if there's some things where you're like starting to see that favoritism or the relationships kind of get involved in between, you know, doing your job. At the end of the day, we're here to do a job as police officers.
Yeah.
And we have to put those relationships on the side, right? And when you start seeing that crossing the line, then we gotta go, okay, let's move you somewhere else, build those barriers again, and then go back. It doesn't mean that we're never gonna be allowed that.
Understood. And I guess my other question was with the noises, disturbance, are you finding that it's a lot of the same people, on different occasions, or is it different people at different times? And just an increase in occurrences? So are there frequent flyers in that regard, or?
I would say it's probably the same 20%. Let's say there's like 5% of the population causing 20% of the calls no matter what. You will see the fluctuations throughout the summers of people who are transient coming through here that will have those occurrences, but generally speaking, it's the same people who are dealing with on a regular basis. We reached out to addictions counseling. We tried to, you'll see the free charge stuff is increased. So this year we've done 9 referrals. We've just done more recent ones to try to try different route than criminal charges, sort of justice circle, and try that and see it happen. And then we can get the community involved in providing that treatment or a kind of more holistic approach on it. So it's something that we've had some good success.
That's good.
over, so.
It's nice.
No.
I would just say that I am looking forward to the spring and our engagement again. I know that we've had several discussions over the last year. You know, our priorities have definitely changed. And so we'll look forward to that, make sure we get a good thorough discussion about it. Also, when you say demand, what level would you say that I guess it's M Division, the Yukon?
Yep.
What kind of demand is that? Is it a higher level demand for Canada, like federally, or is it kind of a mid-grade demand? Like where do we sit as far as recruitment comes?
So recruitment wise, it's kind of the way the shift has gone is they're leaving it for each division to run their recruitment themselves. The CEO here in the division has made it very clear that if you're from the Yukon, you want to come back to the Yukon, you're coming back to the Yukon. There's no doubt about that. The drive for just looking internally, and this would be my own personal opinion, there wasn't as much drive for the Yukon right now than it was 15, 20 years ago. I don't know if it's the shift of people not wanting to be on call and work in the north, or if it's the shift of applicants we're getting. But now we kind of have this battle at depot where if a recruit's coming to the Yukon, they want to come to the Yukon. It's no longer this, hey, you're going to the Yukon, you've never been there. So it's nice to see that bit of a shift. So now people are wanting to come here. The biggest struggle I found is like I can get people lined up to come to Watson Lake. I just can't get them released from other areas.
Okay.
So there is the drive there is just there's a lot of other moving parts that are preventing people.
Fair enough. And like I was saying, you know, if that engagement is important, and we're looking forward to that. What was I gonna ask now? I guess capacity was a big question previous year. And we questioned lots about your staffing level. And whether or not an extra person or, is that ever discussed? Is your capacity increased or is there ever that discussion for Watson Lake?
So there is discussions that we've had internally, and we tested reviews, there was a review in 2020 that. Of course, like having the increase in volume allows myself and the supervisor to step back into more of a supervisor role instead of being first responder. Because that's a constant struggle we have, is no matter what, we're always gonna have someone who's on a soft vacancy, either sick or at the vacation training, so you're always gonna run that number down. When we look back in the history of Watson Lake as a detachment, it's been 9 members since the 90s, I believe it was. When there was a shift to 5 CTA positions, which is the community tripartite agreements with the First Nations. And then 4, I guess, federal government funding. To the core police. So when you start looking at the different roles and different responsibilities, it's kind of this who's doing enhanced, who's doing core policing. We as a detachment decided that we're doing everything together and we're kind of sharing the workload to make sure we're doing the best services to the communities as possible. This next year, we'll probably be at, we will be at 2 soft vacancies for the foreseeable future. But as far as hard, like bringing the recruiting, we're actually going 1 additional, so that when we have a transfer out in the spring, we already have a body here working and you know the communities, and we're not going to drop down and use that service. So we're trying to make that change, and that's a big thing. That's I don't think was been happening for the last while. So we're trying to. I think that we have had some nice changes in the management in the division, so including staff, and we're really good staff person that's really looking after our staff right now.
So.
But yeah, just the staffing isn't, I know a constant battle, so that's why, you know, I ask about the increase in capacity to cover those soft vacancies and, you know, get that extra coverage. It's not only for the community, but for yourselves. I mean, it's just, you know.
And I would think that maybe mirrored with Elephant as well. If you guys are talking to them, they want the same thing. Because
Good.
the more things we have here, the more practice that we can do, and it's tenfold when you see like where we can take a step back and go, okay, we have 2 people on night shift, now we have 7 people able to do other stuff in the community.
Yep. Now that extra family in a small community is huge, right? 1 extra family for us is huge versus a bigger center, so. Great. Happy New Year. Thanks for coming.
Exactly.
You'll be back next week.
Possibly.
Hopefully.
Maybe.
Solid maybe.
So, maybe.
Leaning on the yes side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember coaching. I hockey.
Oh,
I mean,
Priority.
you guys are all welcome to join us. Hockey.
can't discourage that. Okay, nice to meet you.
Right.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Stay warm. Okay. Next on our agenda, CAO Lockwood. Please, if you may.
Welcome back, your worship.
Thanks.
So yeah, it was a good break. Unfortunately, we're dealing with COVID in town again. We've got some staff off with COVID outbreak going around again, so yeah, so we're dealing with that. We do have some staffing positions advertised right now. We've got a term position at the rec center that's advertised right now due to an illness. So there's a disability coverage going on, which will be filled there as well. So yeah, so we're moving ahead. We've been rather fortunate on closing out 2023 with lack of snow, and it really assisted our year-end dollar amounts on snow and stuff, which we were good. So going forward here in 2024, I know there's been concern addressed from council about the big projects we got coming up in 2024. How we're gonna handle them all. So I just thought I'd do a little rundown through the list.
Sounds great.
Okay. Instead of getting into a long-winded report, so.
Okay.
I'm just gonna go through the capital budget sort of line by line and just give you an update of where things are at, so.
Okay.
So under administration, new photocopier, that's easy peasy thing. Tiffany's dealing with that through Canoe procurement right now, so. Canoe is supposed to be an easier process for us. It's our first purchase through Canoe, so it's been a learning experience. And Canoe dealing with the photocopier, the rep from Rico actually phoned and then another one phoned. So Tiffany's dealing with two people from the same company. So, but anyways, we're gonna get through it and learn.
Yeah,
So it does save us money, so we're gonna learn. It's already starting to pay benefits through Staples. Prices are cheaper through it. And then, as you know, at the last meeting, we put amendment in for the housing accelerator funding. If and ever it is approved, we already have Elevator Yukon on contract on that project already, so they would continue as our lead on that. So we'll wait and see if the federal government decides they're gonna get money to the north and to Watson Lake. And then we go into protective services, radio and gear, that's easy. Some Joey is dealing with that, or I should say, Director of Protective Services is dealing with that. Also, the next two are the big ones, right? The replacement of the pumper and replacement of rescue. There's been a committee formed at the fire hall with Chief Chirpin running it, and they're in the process of writing the specs documents for both those pieces of equipment right now. So they've had, I think I've been in attendance to one of the meetings, and I think they've had two others. And they're working out the specs and everything and getting to fine tuning with the goal to have something to us to go out for proposals in February. Next thing on the list is the command truck. That's something that we're handling internally because it's just an RFT for a basic truck and then kitting it out. Next on there is the structural protective unit, protection units. The RFP has been completed. Tiffany is planning to actually put it out. We'll put it out on Mercs and to No One Structural Protection Unit suppliers on Thursday. So it's going to be a tight one because of the fact that we like to have those units here for wildfire season in the spring. So you're going to notice the closing date on it is going to be, I think, February 16th. And so it'll come back to council before the committee of the whole meeting in March. It'll come to the second February meeting. And unfortunately, we're gonna have to make a decision then if we want to get them delivered in time for wildfire season. Because it's a 90-day turnaround on those ones. So that one's the only one that out of all our procurement that's got a really tight deadline on it. If we want to have that equipment here in case of fires in the spring.
do we know that those are available and like ready for?
They're 90-day turnaround from the time we issue a contract, we can have them sit.
Oh, okay,
We've confirmed that with numerous companies that supply them.
cool.
But the document is all done. I've reviewed the specs twice now and gone over it with Joey. And it's good to go. It's just on Tiffany's desk now for just formatting and publishing, but even the formatting, Chief Chirpin's got it actually pretty good. And then the next thing on the list is a tooth bucket, which is an internal thing. Glenn's dealing, or the Director of Operations is dealing with that. Upgrades to the SCADA system and hardware. That is something that we'll deal with internally because it's a specific company that deals with our SCADA system. So it's almost like a sole source, unfortunately, but it's something that pricing will come back to council for approval, but it's something we're dealing with internally. Next thing on the list is replacement of boilers and operating system at the water treatment plant. I have a consultant on contract called Better Building System Engineering Group. And they were actually in town yesterday and today looking at that project. They actually have 3 projects with us. So, because they specify in building heating systems and design. So they're doing the design on them and then they will write the tender documents for us and do all that. So that's BSC's doing that. Groundwater monitoring wells at the lagoon. Morrison Hirschfield, I should have the proposal for the whole work in my hand sometime later this week. And then bucket for excavator, that's the same thing. We're handling it in-house. It's just a matter of 3 quotes and the Director of Operations dealing with it. Next is the groundwater monitoring wells at the landfill, and Morrison Hirschfield are the consultants on record for it. The cemetery redesign and expansion and has been handled by, Heidi, what's the company? I don't know.
Associates.
Sorry?
Lee's.
Lee's and Associates, yes, are the consultants on record for that one. Then the Wildlife Trail Project and Signpost Forest Trail enhancements. Lee's and Associates has been the design lead on that one. I'm still sitting on the fence if we're gonna put it out for, requests for proposals on running that whole project. Okay. Next one is the playgrounds. And that one I definitely want to put out for RFP to the playground companies for them to come up with proposals for us.
Yep.
Rec center kitchen upgrades, the consultant on, or architecture consultant on record is Northern Front Studios. And they're the ones that did the design and they're the ones that are putting a proposal. Some of their engineers, electric and mechanical will actually be in town next week to look at the rec center. Next is HLA deck and rail replacement stuff. That's something we're dealing with in-house. And it's, Glenn's got a spec document that's going out to local contractors for bidding. Rec center dehumidifiers, I know it's a large dollar contract at $264,000. It's very specific and it's really Simcoe is the only show in town, but we're gonna put it out for a request for proposals as well to see if there's somebody else comes out of the woodwork. But we do have the spec document already. And then the next ones are the gym equipment, gym flooring, golf simulator, and Kubota attachments. That's stuff that our rec department's dealing with in-house. And then the next two on the list are also big ones. That's the rec center boiler installation and the rec center heat recovery installation. And as I said earlier, BSE has the job of doing the design and coming up with tender documents. When they were in town, left this at lunchtime. They're really weighing out the heat recovery. They honestly aren't sure if we're gonna get bang for the buck by doing it, but at least we're doing due diligence to confirm that, because Simcoe had come to us before and said, oh yeah, it's a win-win, but these guys, the engineers, are thinking that it might not be, but they're doing all the due diligence under the contract, reach out to Simcoe to get all the information on the degree of temperature coming off the chiller and all that, so they can provide us with a total package. So at least we're making educated decisions moving forward.
Yep.
When we're spending taxpayers' dollars. So that is the complete list. So I think that might alleviate council's concerns. I'm open.
It's still a lot.
It's a lot of stuff.
Still gotta see those proposals, we still gotta, we gotta apply for all those funding from gas tax.
Actually, the funding, Shanna's been working on, and majority of it we're actually got commitments on. Right? So there's gonna be a bunch of TPAs coming shortly.
Okay.
So, I'm, for this stage of the year, I'm very confident.
Okay,
I'm
But
glad.
we're a long ways ahead of where we usually are at this stage, right? So, by us, excuse me, by us having an RFP going out on the tenth of January, that's huge for us. We've never been in that mode since I've been here, or probably long before I was here, so we're making strides, so. And if there's anything that I foresee coming down, the council will be getting updates and we'll be able to try and mitigate them long before we get into those situations, so.
Did you want to announce Joey?
Yeah, I will, and then also Yukon Government Infrastructure Development Branch, so Marta and Nicholas, along with, I think, 6 engineers and architects will be in town next week doing the scoping project on the rec center. for retrofit and all that wonderful stuff. So it's gonna be a busy few days at the rec center. They've got structural engineers, civil engineers, everybody coming in to actually go over it with fine tooth comb. And so it's exciting to see that going on as well. So
what's the outcome of that? Like,
So it'll-
determine whether or not it's worthwhile?
Well,
to
it-
even do a
exactly,
project like
and
that?
also come up with a plan so that when the funding pot opens.
That we're ready.
presents itself, we know where we're at. We have a plan and we're ready to jump on it. Instead of sitting, oh, well, look, they just come up with a bunch of money, then we gotta start doing all this legwork where.
I guess
that's
I'm
why we're gonna have it
I guess
lined up.
I'm just asking because I feel like the conversation at one point was, you know, retrofit versus replacement.
Well, yes, so to sort of answer that question, I guess a prime example would be Dawson City. And their project where they wanted to have a skating rink, the curling rink, multi-use area. And, you know, their estimate came in at $103 million. And their budget, the YG had to go with it, was 65 million. So, that's a real small piece of what the pie that we have over here. So you can imagine that we're never gonna see that kind of money to replace or do anything like that. So I think we're in a situation that we just keep plucking away at it and doing upgrades. There's some concerns from the structural engineer about the skating rink being a metal building because it's, you know, that building itself was built, I think, in
50 years old.
68, yeah. So there was work done and I found the documentation, which really surprised me. It just happened that conversation about there was upgrades done on the curling rink side. And so I actually went back and I found the documents in the most obscure location in our filing cabinet. But I actually found the documents and the tender stuff and the work was done. I was able to provide it to bring it up to the code of the day back in, that would have been in
98?
99 maybe. No, it was after that. It was after that, 2000 and something. Anyways, I found those documents and, so they've got it all now, so all we can do is wait for the report because the code of the day compared to today's code are night and day.
Yep.
So, so we'll wait and see what comes out of that report. At least it's gonna be a guiding document and then we can make an educated decision from there.
Yeah, because I guess something we also talked about was, you know, a full rec review and discussion about, again, the facility and like what, you know, its future. looks like.
And then also during this, when I found the same documents about the roof, in another filing cabinet I found where the town council in 2014, 2015 had a full rec review done. And I'm currently trying to source that document so we can compare to see if what was there as well. So it's the same person that I've been in contact with about doing the new review. So, so we'll see what comes out of that, but those are things that we're working towards because prime example about usage is curling. You know, curling ice has been in and there's been nobody come forward that's even asked about curling.
I thought they were putting a league in, to be honest with you, but I don't know who's
Well,
facilitating that.
who's doing it? Because nobody's talked to the town, so.
I don't know who's facilitating that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's,
So anyways, so those are examples, like the ice has been in, we have to upkeep it every week, but nobody's even going in to do drop in. And other years we have had drop in, people showing up, but so anyways,
like, I thought that we heard mid-December that it wasn't ready yet.
it was ready prior to Christmas. Anyways, so it's, you know, it's in a few weeks, but anyway, so we'll have to look at those type of things. Another thing, Minister Mostyn, he would like to attend a meeting with council on either February 27th or 28th,
What day is our meeting?
Monday or Tuesday. This is a week after your meeting.
Oh, I see.
This would be, just a meeting with
And
council,
Monday's the 26th.
27th, I believe.
Monday's the 26th.
Oh,
23,
yeah, so
25,
it'd be
26.
Tuesday or, yeah,
It's a
Tuesday or
holiday.
Wednesday. Tuesday or Wednesday.
Tuesday or Wednesday.
Wednesday. Tuesday's my birthday. I'm not being here.
Wednesday would be good.
Yeah,
27th?
Sure.
28th.
Offered those dates because he knew his worship was going to be away until.
28th is Wednesday.
Go away. Okay,
Okay, so the 28th?
Yeah.
We will respond. Thank you.
6?
28th.
I don't know what time.
And that'll be Zoom, no doubt.
No, he's coming in person.
200.
Well, that was the email, so I only know what they said. So, and then the next thing, tourism destination fund. I know his worship and I had some correspondence back and forth. His worship and I had some correspondence back and forth about applying for funding. But the pot that's open, which we have to have an application for, is the 15th of January. I did not know that council had discussed potentially applying for funding to do signage until yesterday. Because I wasn't here when you guys discussed that.
Oh,
But I had also spoke to your worship about maybe applying for that fund to do the new Sandy dump on the Hotel Campbell Block property. So I guess I'm seeking direction from council as to what they would like to see the fund, or we might be able to word it that we apply for both, because the sign is directing everybody to the Sandy dump, so.
so
Either or.
I thought that we were talking about applying for that for the highway signage.
Yes.
for-
That's what we're referring to, yes.
Oh, sorry, I thought the way you just said that, I thought you meant it was like a sign saying.
No.
Down the road, yeah. I was like, I don't remember talking about that.
We put a sign saying Sandy dump.
yeah,
Oh, okay. I mean, I'd like to see both, I guess,
I'd like to
if it's possible.
it's a pretty short turnaround for an application on like that.
Well-
So, I mean,
I think we can do it.
We have to
I mean-
pick one,
Sandy dump. I don't know,
signage.
like Sandy dump.
it would be nice, personal opinion, to kick off the signage. To get things rolling on that program, build some policy, get some people, business interested, put some business signage up. Get it rolling, you know, it could be a 1 or 2 year project and really make it look nice. That would be great, but also that Sandy dump, I think, is almost critical. You know, our community needs it, so yeah, so yeah, I mean, it's a tough one.
Well, the thing is too, we can apply for one, like maybe a Sandy dump under the tourism destination fund, and then hit up CDF for doing a signage project maybe.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, talk to the funding group, but you might be able to apply for both.
Yeah.
You know, depending on what the cost of it might be, maybe the signage is not a fully funded program, maybe it's a Kickstart program with, you know, your fees associated for a year.
Yeah.
You know, your setup fee.
Well, and that's the thing, because, you know, we'll do up our, you know, we're still working, our policy is in the queue of stuff in the list to be worked on.
Okay.
So, you know, policy and then follow through, but, from administration side, I do think, as you said, the Sandy dump is a critical part of our infrastructure. You just look at what we go through down at White Lake Park.
Yeah.
It's not disgraceful, but it's not good for a community.
No, it's not, well, neither of those things look good for our community. You know, the signages are hideous and the use there is difficult, but you know, I'm gonna lean towards the Sandy dump for that funding, just because of the amount and what it can provide for tourism.
Sorry to interrupt. Do we know? You guys probably don't know this. How many people accessed that fund last year? Like, did they use it all up? Because it's competitive.
Well, they just did
And then do
it
we have a plan B if we don't get it? I guess
It's just,
tonight.
just a bit.
for the $500,000 pot one, they just did the release and.
How much is a sandy dump?
Sandy dump, I'm saying, I'm figuring all in, we're probably gonna be less than 40,000. Cause it's concrete, right? That's the killer is pouring the concrete and getting that done. The equipment itself is about ten
What
thousand.
about the
And then we gotta do.
underground stuff?
We gotta do the tie-in, but we're very fortunate on that property is that we have water and sewer right there.
Okay,
So it's not gonna be a massive, but that's why I'm saying, you know, concrete's probably 10 grand, equipment's 10, and I'm leaving.
A little bit of wiggle room.
Wiggle
we-
room for water and sewer
so,
connection.
so if we don't get it, do we have a contingency for that
Well, then
project?
we would look at other funding sources right now, and I just haven't started looking at it. Truthfully, I had the Sandy dump marked as a capital project, and I'll fall on my dull pen that I missed putting it in the budget.
Well, we all missed noticing it too, so.
Yeah. So, but, you know, as I do know that as we work through the year, we always come up with other projects, so we do a capital budget amendment type thing that, you know, we can look at it there if this funding falls through, I guess.
Thanks. Yeah, I'd like to see obviously both projects, but I mean, if you think. I don't know, if you have another idea for the signage, then
Well, yeah, so anyways,
on site.
if you're leaning towards the Sandy one on this one, we'll definitely reach out to tourism and everybody else to see what else is out there for funding this one. So,
Perfect.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you very much.
And what would be the plan for the sandy dump then? Would you move it somewhere else? Would you just
no, with,
up the spot that it's in?
I said the hotel property.
Oh, the hotel
Yeah.
property. Okay,
So it's in the central location, that's where all the campers are parked, they're all turning in anyways, so it would be set up.
Visitor information.
Exactly, everything's there, and
Yeah.
then there's potable water, there's the whole, it's like it would be the professional setup. And the system that we'll be going with is the one that actually charges the toll for dumping your sewers, so
Perfect.
$5 or whatever the fee is.
That's perfect.
That's great.
That's what we do.
Yeah, and it's all solar powered, so we don't have to run power to the site. And it's got a cellular thing for doing their debit card for paying for their dump. So, and it won't allow them to put their hose in because there's a plug on an operated plug that works off 12 volts. And they have to put their code in, and then they got so much time to lift the lid up. Oh, with their hose in, and if they miss their.
It charges them anyway. Good, it's good.
Well, that's
So it's a neat system.
Well, no, we're gonna have to police ours though, that's all that means, is because if the town's gonna charge, which is awesome.
Mhm.
We'll just have to police ours a lot better.
Yeah.
People aren't like abusing ours.
I've looked at them all over,
Be yours.
the same system is in Fort Nelson, just on this side of their big aquatic center there. They've got that all set up. And same thing at the place where I stayed in Spruce Grove.
Yeah.
Campground there had this identical.
It's a cool setup, I didn't even know they had
It
that.
gives you enough time, because you're thinking like a lot of these people that are using this are like in their 60s, 70s.
But it gives you the whole spiel before you put your
It
card
gives
in.
it ample time, because I don't wanna be like, I got you $5, you can do it at 5. I think that's just crooked.
This is a system that's used, Council,
Okay.
it's a system that's used everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
So by this time, they've at least probably used it,
It's somewhere coming up.
coming up the highway, right?
Okay, that makes
Very
it feel a little
common.
better.
Actually,
Well, I thought of that too.
states in their national parks, they have the same system and they're all solar and
Mhm.
Okay.
communicate,
So
so.
they've used it as hopefully once.
Yeah.
Right, so.
Yeah, there's gonna be ample instructions and stuff.
I like it.
Anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there.
That's
So
great.
that's Most in that. And then my final thing would be like to announce that our Director of Public Safety, Joey Chirpin, and his girlfriend Tiara had a baby boy yesterday. Ashton Oliver. C-section because the baby was in a breech position, but everybody's healthy and good. And things are moving ahead. So I sent him a message and teasing him, I said, see you back to work on Friday. So, it's all good.
Yes.
Right.
Awesome, we're very happy for Mr. Turpin. Maybe we can send him, if you know where he is, some flowers or a bouquet or a card or, I don't know.
Card.
Just a card.
Diapers, you're gonna need these.
How about a package of some sort?
Yeah. No, it's all good.
Flowers and candy,
So, yeah, no, it's good.
more than a card.
So that's my report. for you.
Thank you, CA Lockwood. Ton, great work for January 9th. Some people haven't woken up from the holidays, so
Neither is our computers in town because mine died, so it's being replaced.
awesome. Okay, we'll move right along to number 6 on our agenda, which is the property tax arrears list. So this will be public, right?
Yes, your worship. So this is the list that will go to the newspaper.
Mhm.
And the reason it's before you because it has a deadline to be published. Answer is, the list is actually shorter than normal, as any of you might remember. And that's due to the diligence of my office staff of actually phoning people and bugging them to get in and actually make payments. And some of the names on the list are repeat year after year.
Do we need a motion to approve for?
Yes, for it to be published.
I'll make a motion to approve the tax lien summary.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Hanchar. Thank you, Councillor Burtis. All in favor? Carried. Questions?
No,
I can just inform you, I'm positive if somebody pays now before the deadline, then.
When's the deadline?
15.
July 1st.
Then it won't be published.
And their name would be.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. Next on our agenda, we have the admin report 23-23, contract award for the purchase of a submersible pump. I will read this administrative report. The purpose is to seek approval to award the contract for the supply of a new submersible lift station pump. The financial implications is gas tax funding applied for and approved in the amount of $140,000 for the purchase of a flight submersible pump for the lift station located on 9th Street. In line with Council's 21-24 strategic plan to improve emergency preparedness. Some background, Council approved the purchase of the new submersible pump in 2023 capital budget with a budget amount of $140,000. This pump will be a backup in the event of an emergency, as the town does not currently have a backup pump for the lift station, and should one pump go down, it could take several days or weeks before one be sourced, putting us at risk of sewer backups and liability. Administration received 2 quotes. One was Flight, which has been provided to for council's consideration. There are 2 recommendations here, and I would appreciate a motion.
So,
Few questions.
yeah,
What kind of pump, do we already have? Cause I couldn't, because.
So this pump is an identical pump as to what's in the lift station, so it's unbolt and bolt in. It is an 8-inch diameter pump that pumps at 700 gallons per minute. Cause when we had the overland flooding, it was pumping at roughly 53 liters per second. So it's a massive pump. And I just wanted to clarify where it says, where we might not be able to source one for days or weeks. We've been told that it's probably an 8-week minimum delivery on a pump. So.
what happens if we don't have one?
Then we could have sewer backups if both pumps go down.
Did you have another question?
I'll let you,
Yeah, so we were just quietly discussing that this says that the gas tax was approved for the amount of $140,000, but in the capital budget, it's actually only on there for 100. So just wondering where the extra, because the actually proposed thing is 120. I'm just wondering where the extra 20 comes from.
or do we amend the capital?
Well, that was, I think that was in last year's capital budgets amendments. It was actually changed in a lot in it, but
So, but the
I know.
budget we're about to pass only says 100.
Mhm.
Yeah, I saw that too.
that, I think that might be not the amended capital budget though.
What's the
right?
one you sent us?
Is it?
Package.
Oh, well, I honestly didn't look at that. Let me look at it. Because we need those numbers. Let me go back to the other,
There's like a screenshot that accompanied the admin report and that says 100 on there.
I just wanna go back to the capital budget. Last year bylaw amendment.
Lift station spare. We did do that capital budget amendment, right? Just recently.
Anyway, so long story short, if it is amended or not amended,
Yeah,
you'll have to amend.
no. No, but just bear with me. I'm going back on amended. Budget amendment.
Here it is. So in the budget amendment,
Yes,
That we passed in December.
oh, that's fine, I'm looking.
there it is.
Yeah.
An increase of expenditure line, lift station
Where's that?
spare pump in the amount of $40,000.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
I knew it was,
Yeah.
there. Sorry, I was looking for the actual.
Okay, just the thing we got today was a little bit.
Yep, so that was covered.
Okay, thank you. And then I guess it just says meeting date January 16th, so we're passing it next time?
Yes, this is because this is committee of whole meeting, we brought it
Yeah,
forward for
okay.
discussion, yes.
Great.
Okay,
I
perfect.
have no questions about the actual. Thank you.
Made motion in this meeting,
I know.
so
I know,
it's up to council.
yeah, if council wants to make a motion.
Motion to approve that today, that would be fine. Would save us having to do it in the next meeting, but it's up.
I'm comfortable having it next meeting like it should be.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Okay, number 8 on the bylaw or on the agenda is the general maintenance and nuisance bylaw. So administration has provided us with a report about some of the amendments that have happened on this bylaw. There's been plenty of discussion. We've gone over this bylaw several times in council meeting. I'll go through the administrative report. At the committee of the whole meeting of December 5th, 2023, council reviewed the comments received from administration and the public on the draft bylaw and identified areas where changes could be made or further consideration was needed. Administration has made several changes to the bylaw. The main changes are laid out in the sections provided. The sections right of entry and enforcement of penalties are being reviewed by legal, therefore no changes were made to these sections. The breakdown of fines will be presented on the next bylaw reading. This bylaw has made the first reading. So some amendments and comments and preamble. Nuisance changed to visual nuisance and defined in definitions. Seeking council's input on this change.
I love it.
Thank you, Councillor Hanchar. Any other comments?
Yeah,
Regarding the visual nuisance.
oh, no.
I think it makes sense because otherwise my whole issue was that it said general maintenance and nuisance bylaw and it was like, well, where are we addressing any of the nuisances? Like, why is it even called that? But visual nuisance makes sense to me because we did away with the whole noise thing and
Graffiti and.
yeah. I'm comfortable with that change.
Okay,
Like it. Thank you.
great. The preamble, noise removed as previously discussed. Okay, definitions reviewed and amended. So 5.01 accumulations prohibited. Amended to read that prohibitions dependent on property zoning. Zoning bylaw may allow for the storage of certain items listed in this section depending on the zoning. 501B, accumulations prohibited, changed nuisance to visual nuisance to match definitions. Section 7, snow removal. Administration is still seeking council direction on snow removal section. So 7.01, snow removal, added verbiage to address people placing snow from their yard into someone else's property. Snow blowing over a fence.
See, with that, I think that if you were snow blowing over your fence and land in the yard and nothing is harmed, I think that's just like, you know what I mean? Like, be a good neighbor, it landed on your lawn, you'll get extra water in the summer. But if you're snow blowing it off your driveway into somebody else's driveway, that's a different story, right? So I think it's people just splitting hairs at that point. And I think you would hope that common sense would prevail, but I guess people need it spelled out. You know, like, and who does that anyway? Snow blows their yard. I mean, if you're doing it to be malicious. So therefore, you know what I mean? Like, so I think that, I don't know what to say about it other than like,
I feel like unfortunately we do have to spell it out.
maybe don't snow blow the snow from your driveway to somebody else's
Try
driveway.
not to. Yeah,
Yeah,
try not.
I mean, cause at some point, like, where do you, cause they do have a thing where you can adjust the direction in which it blows. It's not impossible to do your best, but I mean, sometimes when you turn. Yeah,
I'm comfortable with the way the snow removal portion reads. Especially when it comes to the part about owners being responsible for removing the bit on their driveway and entrance. I think we did read in multiple other bylaws that in a lot of other places, even if it was the property of the municipality, that you were responsible for the area in front of your residence. So I'm comfortable with that. The only thing that I keep thinking about though is the part where it says about pushing snow
Across the street.
across the street. It reads here that as long as it doesn't impede the town's ability to clear the streets, and I'm good with all of that. I guess my only issue is the commercial snow removal that's happening like on Adela Trail in a lot of different spots where they're pushing it into the boulevard. I think, I don't know if there should be something in there about that, or I don't know, I'm having a tough time with that. Because I think that even though it's not really impeding the town's ability to clear the road, when it gets to a certain amount, though, we are responsible for hauling it out, right? So,
The town's doing some of that though,
sorry,
across into the boulevard. Because right across from the grocery store, that's not us. I don't know who's pushing it right across from the grocery store.
Yes,
but the trail's really long and there's lots.
that's right.
Yeah, no, I know, but I'm just saying though, like,
But it's not impeding the.
no, that's right, no, that's right.
Which section are we referring to specifically?
So,
701.
7.01.
Added verbiage to address people placing snow from their yard into someone else's property. Okay,
Private property.
7 point,
With that,
okay, 7.02, snow removal, added section to address the responsibility of property owner to or occupier to clear the snow from end of driveway.
I'm good with that. Should be the responsibility.
Okay,
yes, except, you got like how many Yukon housing places? That, you know, like people may come visit them, they don't have a vehicle. You're expecting that all of a sudden, are we talking like just from the edge to the property there? You're gonna open a
We're
whole new
talking
can of
about-
worms.
We're talking about like things like in the springtime when the town has to dig down the road to get that top whatever off.
Yeah.
And there's that thing there. So I don't know who's responsible for,
well, that's,
like, does Yukon Housing have a
that's,
contractor or is it the renter?
It's gonna stay right here, added section to address the responsibility of the property owner or occupier to clear
Or
snow
occupier.
at the end of driveway.
Yeah,
Good luck.
I mean, it would be the property owner's responsibility almost anywhere else.
Mhm.
I mean, some bigger cities ask them to shovel their sidewalks, you know,
Yeah.
it's mandatory to shovel your sidewalk, you know?
No, I get it, and I applaud our efforts in gentrifying the community. However, the fact remains that some people, food, clearing the snow into my driveway.
No, but it's not for, like, we're not telling them it's just their responsibility to do, they can't come back and complain about having a big hump at the end of their driveway. Because they didn't clear it. That's what we're trying to get at.
I can handle that.
Yeah, that's what this is for though.
That's what it's talking.
Yeah.
I thought it was like, okay.
No, we're not.
Now you gotta live
You
there.
gotta do that now.
We got a Bobcat.
No, but they just can't come to us and say, you left this.
Your
I didn't read it like.
Yeah, that's what I think they're trying to get at there.
And I'm okay with that.
It's not, yeah, sorry, it's not like if you don't,
Yeah, that's
it's, that's your responsibility to clear it if you wanna clear it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
So the other part I just mentioned because after reading this, it was just, and also after just driving around, that's just something that I keep thinking about.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of it happening and, I mean, obviously, we have less snow than other years, but if we did have a year like, you know, last year or the year before, like there. I don't know what admin opinion is on that. But as far as like a large amount of snow being plowed into the boulevard. In the middle of town, by not town.
I think it's, you know, safety is the number one issue, right? And if the safety of it is not impeding visual, I don't know, like, I think safety should be the priority. That's
I was reading because I wanted to see if there was other communities similar, like just what they were having with, just the only part that I have a problem, well, a hard problem with is includes like pushing the snow from the private property onto, like, I'll just use my street as an example, or even
Yeah.
Mum Street as an example. Like, there's nothing there. Like, if you're
So-
pushing it across.
So this allows for that.
That's right. Well, it doesn't say that. No,
It does, as long as it doesn't impede with their ability to clear the road, which it does not. So it does allow for that here.
Oh, it's-
I actually
okay.
read that many.
Yeah, see, because because I was just reading Dawson.
So that's why I'm saying,
Yeah.
this kind of allows everybody to do it.
Yeah.
The issue I'm having is with the commercial,
location.
there's just a lot. And there's some big yards being cleared and being pushed. from
Into that.
the thing. So, and if the town is having to clear that away as it accumulates, then it does fall on us to remove it, is what I'm getting at.
Especially
Because it's
when,
not just a small amount, like it's.
especially when they have a large property and they can keep their snow on their own property and they're pushing it across the,
Yeah, just,
like I've witnessed them.
They have ample
pushing it
room.
Across the road.
so that's why I'm just wondering if it's worth, if it's reasonable to say, okay, it's like this for residential people or whatever,
Yeah.
but not, I don't know. I just don't know how, I don't know
How do you-
how you do that. You know what I mean?
It's pretty tough to single out specific locations when it's not a all encompassing, right?
But shouldn't it be like to administration discretion though, like if it's getting out of control?
Yes.
Like they drive by and see all of a sudden a pile that's too big, they go, hey, you can't put snow there anymore.
So maybe we could request
Like,
that administration come up with a reasonable
Yeah.
solution for that downtown core area, if that's not a separate, if that can be defined different, or if that
Because
we
Yeah.
could, you know,
it's not even being pushed like off the one side, it's being pushed onto the highway, so it's like, it is a safety thing because you have to be able to see across the whole.
that's right.
right of ways. So if we can define maybe the downtown core, that might be a discussion to have completely separate from snow removal.
Just,
Fair.
yeah, because like, as long as
But the other thing is it can potentially be damaging the trees that the town has planted in all the boulevards.
So that's why administration.
That's
go
the
through
other-
that and get a really good idea of what, I think with some intel from Public Works, what they've done previously, how they would like to deal with it. And then we can try and create something within that bylaw to accommodate everybody as best we can. Because some of those commercial properties don't have options, and it is difficult, and it's time consuming to move. It's gonna be a hard press for a company to move snow with a truck or a dump truck. You can't expect them to have to pay for that unless it's a huge amount, and maybe it is, maybe that is the solution, so.
Push it on your own property if there's room for it, just
If
like everybody else.
That's the whole thing, right? And I think we had that conversation last time because there are some lots, residential lots that are tight and they only have so much room and then they're stuck.
But if you look at the other side of things, like if we go on the other side, Frank Trail, some of those businesses are so tight that there's nowhere to put that snow. The Bighorn, Andrea's.
But I guess your worship, then it comes down to it, is it has to be fair for the whole community.
Yeah.
So how do we allow some businesses to plow their snow so then the town has to deal with it and then, but other businesses. Right? That's-
Unless,
The tough.
is there any capacity, Cam, then if we have to haul stuff away from people that we can charge them a fee to do that? Is there any capacity for that?
That's crossing over to the.
Private sector.
Private sector, so then it's that double edged.
You're not a business, really, like, yeah. See, like but I'll just read what Dawson has in there. I don't know if it'll help anything, but they say just no owner or occupier shall deposit snow or ice upon streets in such a way as to create a safety hazard. That's all they have. I don't know, that seems pretty simple and makes sense.
They also say all nuisances are.
I know, but I'm just saying though, like that's
Anyway,
all they
well,
have.
I mean, I'm
I'm just saying.
satisfied with what you're saying about how we can think about it.
Work with admin.
Membership admin will look at it and come up with some proposals.
Yes, that'd
Thank
be,
you.
okay, so we got through the first section of the nuisance bylaw, which is becoming a nuisance.
The other part too, like, okay, so with vehicles there, where it says. You can't have a restoration vehicle or you need a $50 permit for 6 months or whatever. I can think of several. Well, Air Force Lodge with their 1942 truck, would that be all of a sudden be like, I get a permit for that? Or someone who has like a set of antlers and a Jeep that would all of a sudden, for their lawn ornament that's been there for.
I think we're
It's kind of
It's
nice.
just kind of crossing the line of discretionary, like, and bylaw does have some discretionary ability in this bylaw.
Cause Rick, remember,
We've allowed for that so that they can.
Okay, see, I like that. I was even gonna say like, you're allowed like one restoration project or.
But what the bylaw will provide some guidelines so that if it is up to the bylaw officer's discretion, they can enforce.
Gotcha. Look, yeah, I don't wanna see an automobile wrecking yard on Leard Ave either.
That's right.
But at the same time too, it's just like, well, if you got like your dream car from when you were 16 and it's been your life's goal to put it back together and
Well,
it's the
see-
one vehicle there.
That's what Rick was saying at the town hall meeting, Rick Harder, cause he has his dad's tractor. And like, and it was fine, like, he said he got a permit like way back in the day and that was the end of it, and we said, yeah, okay, like, it's up to the discretion of much bylaw,
So.
Yeah, because I think there's a difference between having these like,
broken down.
pieces
yeah.
that are being used as whether you've got things planted in it or whatever, it's
Yeah.
part of your
The core,
curb appeal or whatever, but versus,
Yes.
something that's obviously just like a piece of junk sitting there.
yeah, I'm talking
Right.
like the difference in like one vehicle versus like 4 or 5 busted windows, doors hanging off,
Mhm.
no hood, like obviously junk, but anyway.
Yeah.
That was my only concern with that.
So can we power through these last couple of comments and
Sure.
announcements for the nuisance bylaw? So we got through snow removal, defacing a property, shortened section as requested. 9.03, defacing a property, removed 30-day timeline to remove graffiti and changed to timeline deemed reasonable by bylaw. Everybody okay with that?
I like that.
Okay, house numbering removed, eliminated by light.
Like that?
Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, section 12, we've, composting, we've discussed in length.
I like the amendments.
Okay. Anybody else comments? So I'll just read the comments. Administration seeking guidance from council on this section. Remove the types of matter to be compost. Removed insects.
And it also removed, where around your, like, it still says how far away from the building it has to be, but it also said that had to be to the rear or like whatever, and so that's also been removed. Which I like.
But we are including it as some guidance. Okay. Number 13, special permits, entire section reworked, administration seek council input on this section. Special permits. Remove the detailed list of acts that would require a permit. This section is very repetitive as the same information is listed in section 5 as to what is prohibited. With this new wording, a special permit could be issued for different reasons as needed. Administration could, for this purpose of clarity, consider an in-house policy that would direct designated officers to which situations a special permit could be issued. So 13.01 special permit Schedule A form not yet drafted will be completed for the next bylaw reading. Special permits 1301 permit fee to be added to fees and charges bylaw. Any comments on special permits? Not at this time.
Not at this time, I guess,
Okay.
yeah, to see the document to follow.
Okay.
At that time I'll have more.
Sounds good. So we'll look for that. Schedule A. Number 15, review of order by council. No changes made. However, council wanted to discuss the process for appeals further. Anybody recall that conversation?
If someone has a disagreement with what's going on, they can schedule
So the whole thing was that. I think I think how the conversation went was. If something keeps coming back repeated.
That's what it was, I think.
Repetitively.
Like after a decision has been made. You know, what's the policy or the procedure for dealing with that? What would that look like? I think is where we're going, because. Anybody can appeal anything, but I guess once a decision is made,
By council.
can they, yeah, I don't know,
I mean,
is that final?
Who'd have thought it's in another decision-making meeting, so.
Yeah.
Think about it.
I guess you can mull that over. I mean, I would be under the understanding if I were to place an appeal with council, you get a single appeal with council.
That's right, for that matter.
You can appeal your appeal. I think.
Or, you know, yeah,
There's no Supreme Court of Council.
Yeah, but as far as like the wording of like how it would go, like I think I'm good with that. Seems pretty straightforward, but as far as the note saying like that we wanted to have discussion, I believe that's what it was about.
so,
So we like think about it.
okay,
Thank you.
this is all again, first reading, so we'll still have second, third and final. Okay,
Great. It'll be second next week.
could be.
Or,
Your worship, it will not be for second next week because legal opinion is gonna take. a while.
oh, okay.
Okay,
Cool.
till March then.
Probably not, because I've been waiting on other stuff.
Okay, great. Is there any other comments for the general maintenance and nuisance bylaw
No, sir.
at this time?
Not for me.
And there's no noise in there, because if it was noise, it would have to have a decibel level attached, and we don't have a
Well,
decibel meter.
and we also,
got rid of that.
we
Yes.
got rid of that because it was being,
Just double check.
it was unenforceable.
Just double check.
Hard to monitor, yep. Okay. Okay, so if it's okay with everybody, we'll move on to number 9 of the agenda. Ready?
Yep.
Number 9, property tax levy. I will read. Oh, I'm not gonna read the bylaw.
in that admin report.
Yeah, just one second. Okay. Increase to tax assessment roll and adjustment to tax rates for this year's budget. The purpose of this admin report, the property tax assessment roll increased by approximately $18 million over the previous year. This will cause an increase to our property tax income of approximately $184,000, which is almost a 9% increase if we do not adjust our current property tax rates. This amount is well above council's goal of increasing the property tax income by 5% over the 3 years. So our financial implications are, if current tax rates are left the same, there will be an increase to our property tax income of approximately $184,000. Shannon has provided us with a spreadsheet which shows the income amount of current tax rates and 2 additional options for council review. These options reduce the rate on residential and commercial properties, but leave minimum tax amounts and the vacant commercial tax rate as is. The strategic priority implications, council set a goal of increasing the tax income by 5% over 3 years. In council's first year, the rates were not increased. However, the minimum tax amount was increased. In council's second year, the tax rates were increased by 1.5%. This increase to tax assessed values greatly exceeds the goal of 5% over 3 years. An increase of tax assessed values at this amount would cause a significant increase to some individual tax liens. So as you can see, there's 2 recommendations that council review the spreadsheet showing the income amounts at the different rates, that council choose one of the options to reduce the residential and commercial tax rates. Option 1 provides an increase to our income of 3.48%, and option 2 provides an increase of 1.46%. I don't suppose there's a way to put that on the screen.
It's very hard.
Okay.
So in the assessed values also went up in the same year that we instituted the increase in the minimum tax on commercial and residential from 600 to 800, and then we went from 550 to 1100, I believe, correct?
Correct.
And I'm looking at option 1 and option 2 there, and it blows my mind that 0.07% roughly equates to $40,000. If you add up the commercial and the residential, the difference between option 1 and option 2. $30,000, I feel, is what we raised, but raising the minimum rates, and I feel like a lot of that fell on like the lowest income properties and vacant properties. I'm kind of leaning towards option 1. Any other thoughts? That way it'd give us room, some wiggle room. Thoughts?
I mean, I hate raising it ever, and you
Yeah.
guys know my opinion on that, and it's unpopular opinion.
I agree.
I, just for anyone who doesn't know, can you elaborate a little bit more, Cam, on the how the tax assessment roll increased so much? Like, just for anybody who doesn't know that might listen to this,
Well,
like me.
yeah, so property tax assessment was down and actually reevaluated properties throughout the whole community, commercial and residential this year. As a hit based on new building costs and new property values is the hit, and it's an average of about 5% that people are seeing on their tax rolls, some are more. I hate to say it, but mine took a real whack, and it was when they were out this year, they actually had a tape measure out and were measuring things that have been assessed for years. Cause my property went up another $50,000 in value on the assessed value compared to last year. So when I questioned it, and it was because they actually remeasured my barn, which they'd measured before, and found that they had measured it somehow wrong. So my values went up. So based on the current mill rate from last year, my property taxes would go up almost $800 a year just for my own property. And the same thing with Shannon's property went up $40,000. And so they were really going through, and we're probably a couple of the properties that got whacked the hardest for residential. But everybody went up on average about 5%.
And I know you said like it went up so much that you guys actually thought it was an error
But
and spent a tremendous amount of time trying to make sure that that was right.
we went through line by line.
Yeah.
And something that we did with, what we're still investigating, is the fact that we've noticed that a lot of the Yukon government properties did not increase. So we're
That
chasing,
hardly seems fair.
well, I know,
right?
that's why we're investigating it to make sure it's true. And if it is true, then my intention is to file an appeal with the assessment branch.
Okay,
Because why should commercial properties in town, we know federal properties did go up.
yeah,
We looked at them and we looked at all the residential ones. So really, out of all the residential ones, other than the minimum tax rate, we found one property that in town that dropped in value. And we can't figure that one out because that one had work done on it. So, but we before I commit that it was, YG wasn't looked at, period.
yeah,
We still, it's weeks of process to go through each property to evaluate. So we're doing that to make sure it's even and fair. Because I met with Doug Kearns and Jerry Heyman a long time ago, but the municipality back in the 80s, when Doug was CAO first. Yeah, when they actually hired an assessor to come in because they didn't agree with YG's rates on their own properties, and they actually put a case forward, and actually YG's values went up to match everybody else's. So I want to make sure we're not in that same boat again, but it just seemed from the ones that we just sort of randomly looked at, it wasn't, we didn't see the 5% increase on the random polls we did. So we're gonna thoroughly investigate that more, but like I said, they thoroughly went through it. It was based on building, but as a whole across the territory, I spoke with other CAOs, and everybody across the board seen about an average 5% increase. And that's just because of the cost of materials, labor, and that type of stuff and land values.
It's inflationary.
Inflationary, yeah, it's crazy, yeah. But as Councillor Slager knows, and I know, if we go to build new now, and the prices are that much higher.
Yeah.
You won't build for what the prices of stuff's on the market are assessed for, so.
well, thank you for the explanation. I still hate the idea of any increase, but I've been, voted down on that many times. So I mean, if these are our options, then I vote for the lowest. I just think that, life is
Well,
expensive right now.
Would the lowest though keep us in with our 5%?
That will keep you within your 5%. It's only $30,000 extra income to the town, your worship. As you know, as everybody else's costs have gone up, so's the municipalities, right? And, wages and all that stuff continue to raise. So if we stayed status quo, we would be losing, right? But that hence the reason that a 1.58, the mill rate as it was the last year is not, because it's unrealistic. So hence the reason that we've proposed the two options. One would be a $30,000 increase to the municipality, and the other one would be just under $73,000 increase in municipality.
Versus the current one, which is hundred and.
No, I understand that. No, I understand that. I just wanted like, okay.
But the way I see it is, the first go round where we didn't raise taxes, the low income properties took the, like, we didn't raise taxes at all. So your low income properties took the biggest hit. And vacant commercial, they went from 600 to
Yeah.
800, so that's a 33% increase. Okay. Anyway,
Yeah.
so they took the hit that time. Next time we just said 1.5 all across the
All
board.
across, yeah.
This time I'm looking at it, I'm going the difference between option one and option two, 1.45% being option one, 1.43%, so 0.02% residential. Whereas I look at commercial being 2.05 and then 2%, so it's 0.5%.
Yeah.
So I, in my line of thinking was, low income took the hit the first time, everyone took the hit the second time, a commercial take the hit the third time. For next year, and when it worked out to be $40,000.
I see what you're saying.
Motion on the.
Yeah, like, because it's less of a hit, yeah, like, you're hitting commercial a little bit harder, but that's the residential that got hit a little bit harder the first time,
You're just.
Yeah,
right? Yeah, that's what you're
and
saying.
you're still making, making your money, and we've raised rates on everything else from water to user fees to tipping fees to tonnage fees, so,
That's
and
right.
our taxes.
We're deciding next week.
Yeah, it's next week.
Anything but that.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Thank you.
Good. Is that enough discussion? Any more information? Any more questions?
Good, thank you.
But I do believe that choosing a lesser mill rate option rather than the 184 and the current rate
Is a no-brainer.
is absolutely a necessity.
Is there any way to know what that YG might look, those YG might look like before?
It's an we'll never know, your worship, and then it just go to an appeal.
How,
So it's.
are those assessment rules within our bookkeeping though? Like we
Well,
could have those
We've got
amounts?
a stack of, our assessment roll is about that thick.
Yeah.
With all the properties in town. So, but you won't,
Pick like half a dozen YG properties to see.
there's more than that, it's all YG land and municipal. fund.
Sorry, that's my question. I'm just wondering, like, are we talking like housing and, or like
Well,
government building,
We're
like,
not sure, because some, like the liquor store, we know did increase. But that's under Yukon, that's under the Yukon Liquor Corp, it's not under Yukon government. So, so that's what I say, I don't wanna get anybody's hopes up that there's this thing that could change
yeah.
change the wheel, because until we go through each one line by line,
Yeah,
it's just something that we notice as a random thing on some of the properties.
okay.
Well, yeah, okay.
So I wouldn't bring it into
The decision.
in the decision. And your worship, just for the record, council will not respond to comments. Please hold them to question period. So yeah, so it's all I can base it on is the current tax assessment roll that we have, because that's what we've been.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. All right, next on the agenda is number 10, the O and M budget bylaw. Just for discussion, questions or comments. Of course, the mill rate's attached to this, so that's why it's here. It would change that dollar figure at the $30,000 or $70,000 amount.
Right, okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
The proposed budget amount was how much of an increase?
Was it based on the original mill rate at 184,000?
Oh, so it would go down.
Yeah.
Go down a bit.
Okay.
I don't have any questions at this time
Okay.
on that.
Okey-dokey. Moving right along, number 11. Feeding of wild birds and animals bylaw. I'll read the admin report. The purpose to present a draft bylaw for council's consideration to address the feeding of wild birds and animals within the municipality. Council has received several complaints over the feeding of wild birds, excluding songbirds within the municipality. The town has investigated whose responsibility it is to enforce this issue and has found that it is currently unenforceable by the Yukon government. For the protection of wildlife, people, and pets, and to avoid large,
Congregations.
thank you. Just lost my spot there. Just 1 sec. I just lost the whole thing. 1 second. Apologies.
Of wild birds and animals creating a nuisance to neighboring properties, council asked administration to investigate how other municipalities deal with such issues and draft a bylaw that could address the matter for consideration.
Thank you, Councilor Slagan.
You got it back now?
Yep, recommendation. Administration agrees that the feeding of wild birds in town limits has been an issue in the past and supports the creation of a bylaw to help address it. This is for discussion and consideration.
Overall, I like it.
I love it.
My only thing, and I understand that this is a draft,
Yeah,
this goes item number 5 to 14. And then the only thing for me that I felt like honestly love all of it. I think it all makes sense. I think it's great.
It says songbirds, but it should include chickens too.
Oh, yeah.
It's
The,
domesticated animals, so under the.
It's in the definitions, but it's not mentioned anywhere else that I could see unless somebody else could point it out to me.
But I think, your worship, in the wording, it talks about wild animals and, it doesn't talk, yeah, so.
I just checked about that.
the point I was gonna say is 1404, which I don't know if that's actually 14, but, and I wasn't sure if this was just borrowed from another, whatever, because it's the draft, but where it just says that if anyone fails to comply with the order, the town or whoever can enter the property and affect compliance at the expense of the person, which is what we would do for like general maintenance or whatever. But I just thought if, as far as like the bird feeding bylaw, like you're gonna go in there and steal the bird feed and I don't know what that looks like. Or, like scare all the birds away. Or, I don't know if that, it just seemed, that one little piece just seemed,
Weird.
Yeah,
or I understand what you're trying to get at, but it just seemed that one little piece seemed.
Just need some
the
clarification.
only thing that it says in the part,
Your worship, that's going in to be able to prove the offense. So if we can't enter the property and find out that somebody's got stock.
Okay, well, it just says to affect compliance.
Yeah, well, that's
Oh, okay.
affected, you have to be able to prove the offense, right?
Okay,
okay, and another part that I found, I know that it does say songbirds in there, say a Lockwood, but in the actual 5.1, says other than songbirds, and I would ask if they just put other than songbirds and domesticated animals, so that it's covered under both definitions, because in the there's a definition of songbird and a definition of domestic animal, but not together. That's all.
Thank you.
my thought is where does it fit where people have their garbage too full and then they're attacking birds and making a mess everywhere? That fit in.
Solid waste
Fit in the nuisance.
bylaw.
Oh, that-
Solid waste. Solid waste.
Solid waste, okay, thank you.
yeah, otherwise I love this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like it too. Thank you for doing that, I think that's great.
Would it? That's good. Great. Yep. Okay, so we haven't done first reading on this, but it will be presented on the next regular council meeting.
Nice.
Any other questions or comments for
No, thank you.
feeding of wild birds and animals bylaw? Okay. Number 12.
Sorry, I do have one last question. That will be public after we do first reading, which will be next week. Is
Yes,
that right? Okay,
January 16th.
for anybody listening.
What about the,
Just anybody.
Is there any more questions or comments regarding the feeding of wild birds?
we also had something in there, what about the dump? There's ravens and stuff like there all the time, we're not feeding them on purpose.
So that falls under our solid waste bylaw and it's actually covered in.
Oh, okay, There's just a thought, so somebody can't be like, well, you gotta do it.
Yeah, we're feeding them. Yeah, no, that's-
Anyway, just a thought.
yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna move to number 12. Everybody okay with that? Okay. Purpose, the intent, or sorry, protective services presented or prepared by Joey Turpin. Much prefer him to present. Such a good presenter.
Yeah, your worship, it's
You know.
unfortunately that, it's not unfortunate, but.
Fortunate.
Fortunately,
Fortunately, Joey's, baby was scheduled to be born on the 17th, so he was gonna be here for tonight. By Zoom, but baby came earlier, so he isn't available to present. So council has the option of discussing it tonight, and if there's more questions, then it can be tabled until he can be in person for the February committee of the whole meeting.
great.
So,
Want me to read the admin report or?
I think you've already read the remuneration policy at a previous meeting.
Okay.
We just wanted to wait until I think, Counselor Sliger was present, so he could weigh in just before we pass anything. My opinion hasn't changed on that. I think, you know, the report and the notes that we got from the fire chief were extensive and they make a lot of sense. And, the same for me for the, actual fire bylaw. I think that, you know, whatever it takes to get us in line, up to code and the standard operating guidelines, sounds great to me.
Okay, great.
He seems to really know what
He
he's.
knows what he's talking about, where I don't.
Okay. Councilor Slager, did you have anything to add?
I liked it. There's one point in there where it says that we're not a big enough place to have this sort of like structure, but then there's a different pay structure. I would like to see the pay structure simplified. I would just like to see the on-call $130 a pack and a radio. But when you go out on a call, a captain is doing the same work as a new person, so just keep it the same, keep it simple too. Well, you don't have to look at it and be like, okay, is this person a captain or no, he's this guy, oh, he's a recruit, oh, he's you know what I mean? Just keep it, let's find a happy number.
Not trying to cut you off, but Chief Turpin's presentation was excellent. And when he broke down those remuneration amounts, they might read complicated. They're very simple. And I think they made a lot of sense for us when they were presented. I would just say like maybe we can get some feedback from Chief Turpin and he can definitely clarify some of it for you. But it really made sense when he broke it down for us.
And your worship, just to follow up on that, that was in consultation with the firefighters.
Yeah, so that was our note to him when he was here last time, was whether or not it had been discussed with the members and what their thoughts were on it. And he, at that point, I think had not discussed it with them, but has since.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Had that
The
conversation.
only thing that the fire guys have come back with it, like, since his last meeting was the fact that they still wanted to see the minimum 2-hour payout call out.
Mhm.
That's fair for getting out of bed and.
Exactly, and that was his intention. It was just something that had been missed in his comments and we updated that, so.
Okay, I'm okay then.
And the other structure you were talking about was the rank structure. And I think the only thing that he wanted to remove was the senior captain, because that's the comment that was made, that we're not big enough to have a separate captain's rank. And that was the one he wants to remove. The rest stay the same.
In the last meeting that they had, they looked at that and they discussed the fees that they were being paid. And there was some people that were definitely felt that it was quite low.
It still blows my mind that you're, as a first responder, that they pay them less than $30 an hour. You're up there in sometimes very precarious positions and you don't do it for the money though.
That was their thought as well. From the feedback that I got.
Yeah, your worship, that's one thing that Chief Turpin has been very thorough with, is that communication with the membership as per the procurement and all the changes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, after he went through like even Like he went through with them to propose the changes that he wanted, just to make sure they were within line with what they presented us with, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that was my only question, just to make sure that that's not him telling them.
No, he's got this, it's a total
Good.
change from
That's good.
previous to now. In fact, it's that communication and it's that educated presentation and buy-in. It's not, I'm shoving this down your throat.
Yeah.
It's, you know, we have to work together, so what can we do to make it work and better to try and make it so that the department can grow and get more membership and get
Well, it's
buy-in.
so good, it gives you reason, you should have seen that presentation, Thomas, it was good.
Actually, and it is available on audio, so you can listen to it as well, so.
I guess my question is, where does this go from here? Like, I would be comfortable with seeing a draft with all of the chiefs'
I think it's,
points and suggestions, but
I think,
because right now it's just notes on the side, I believe.
Yeah.
No, it's in there, and then the note is why,
Sorry, that was a few.
like those little notes on the side, right? Like, it's in there, but then the notes on the side just explain what.
Oh, I'm sorry, it looked like there were still
Yeah.
things crossed out and.
Well, there still is, there's still stuff.
Yeah.
But
So I'm just saying a draft with,
you're seeing the draft,
Yeah,
with
it's a
the
draft.
crossouts and the new changes made in it.
yeah,
So, that was just so that there was clarity as to what the changes are. So the new wording would be the words that are in green in each one of those.
okay. So I guess when do we,
Well, like, that's where I referred to earlier, if council had more questions, then it would go back to the February committee of the whole meeting. So Chief Turpin could be here to present or answer questions. If not, then we will clean it up
yeah,
and then it would come back to council for, well, I guess it would, administration would look at, doing a new bylaw, being we're amalgamating the two. And we would repeal the two existing bylaws that are on the books.
we are amalgamating it now,
Yeah.
okay,
So we would appeal the first reading of the other two that was already presented to you, that you did first reading, so they could be out there in public. We would repeal them and have bylaw, what, Tiffany might have to answer the question, but it'd be 2024-01 would be coming to you for the next meeting if you wanted.
Maybe the next.
like not
Or
next,
the next-
like.
Or next committee of the whole, or whenever, I'm looking for that direction. If
Like
you-
I personally am comfortable, and I don't know how much time you guys need. I personally am comfortable leaving admin to develop the new bylaw and then seeing it next time at first reading.
In a poll, like. with-
Like in its,
Yeah.
and whatever, and then we can take notes at that time before second reading if. I don't know how you guys.
I like that too, no, I think so, I do.
Do you want to see the fire chief? before that?
It would, no, it'd be fine.
Okay, because we can make any amendments.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
if necessary.
Councilor Paquette. Same thing,
You agree?
good, okay. So we're all in agreement to have administration prepare the single bylaw for.
For next week's meeting or?
Say next week.
Meeting?
No,
At your discretion,
let's wait till,
when you need it to be done, you know, like we can have it in February, we can have a committee of the whole.
Well, you'd still need it for first reading then for before the committee of the whole, right?
To be presented to the public.
is that enough time for you? Is that enough time?
Find out.
I think,
Whatever is realistic for you.
Just put it into February.
okay.
Put it-
put it-
February regular?
Yeah.
February meeting and then it would go to March.
Okay,
As well, okay?
sounds good.
Gives you some time to
Yeah.
really look at it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we want to do it?
That's
That's right.
Exactly.
okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Chief Turpin. Congratulations. Great. Okay, that concludes the scheduling. Now we'll move to Councilor Open Forum if there's any questions or comments from council.
I have a question, and I don't know if this is. If I am allowed to ask this here or not, but I'm gonna do it anyway. There's a house on Morley Crescent. That's really small. And I'm just wondering, is isn't there a minimum size requirement in the zoning bylaw? Sorry, it's probably not the right time to ask that. Anyway, there's a,
I think it's 648.
across from, Side Francois, actually.
Yes, that structure that has been moved on that property meets the minimum sizing for the property. Yes,
I thought you said it was, okay.
no, there's been a request for a variance board, I think, coming forward because they want to add a porch on the front to make it larger. But due to property offsets, it would have to be a variance, so
Okay,
that's something that's bylaws dealing with.
thank you.
Hi, Counselor Slager.
Sorry.
Counselor Slager, I already asked him.
I'm good, thank you. I've said enough.
She's gonna cut you off anyway.
I'm sorry, I did write this down earlier. And apologize if you said that, I just need a reminder. In-ground infrastructure plans for this spring, what does that look like now? Do new tenders and stuff have to go out, or does the current contract just resume where they left off last year?
Yes, it was a 2-year completion contract.
Okay, and when,
So first phase was to start on Tintina. And then, so in the spring, they will go back to Tintina to finish Tintina. And then they will roll out to Frank, Adela and Stikine.
so like, obviously, it's whenever they can dig the ground, but is it like as soon as they can kind of thing, or does it have to, like, it's not gonna be like June 1st or anything crazy like that?
No, as soon as they can start working, as soon as they can start digging with no frost, then they will be working, yeah.
Thank you.
Counselor Paquette, any questions?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Just want to recognize Public Works. They only had 3 staff working today and they did a good job in the town. It's pretty good.
Thank you, Counselor Paquette. 2 comments. Morrison and Hirschfield will be amalgamated to Stantec very shortly, so one company.
What does that mean?
Stantec has purchased Morrison Hirschfield.
Interesting.
News to me.
Yeah. So, just, you know, just might change in who you're addressing. The other question I only had was, thank you very much for all your work on the capital budget. It's huge. I mentioned to you this previously, as some of our gallery has brought up the comments about our roads. I'm just going to become the squeaky wheel that may ride those roads, because, you know, I know that it's an impossible, like, I'm gonna call it an impossible endeavor to fix our roads. Our in-ground infrastructure plan, being it is 20 years long, I don't believe is a solution for the roads. So I just want to start that conversation and continue that conversation for the remainder of our term, so that we can maybe see some planning, or maybe see what the goals might look like for our roads.
Tax levy stays where it is.
But it's a huge problem. And our in-ground infrastructure plan is huge and long, and I do believe that after 10 years of infrastructure work, we're gonna have to redo our roads again. So what could be our solution? What we just have to start talking about it.
Do we have a number value on like the roads that aren't affected by the water and sewer infrastructure? So like the ones that are just outside the downtown core or whatever. Do we have a number value on, I mean, obviously it's gonna be increasing constantly with like inflation and whatnot. But an approximate value on that, like are we talking like 50 million, 10 million, like what does that look like?
Even or
And
like,
how do we know that?
Here's a thought, and I just thought of it. We have graders, we have dump trucks, we have gravel pits. All we really need is just the stuff to make the chip seal. And.
Me too.
I think,
You know what I mean? Like, we really do, like, we have almost all the pieces that we can just do it ourselves.
long term, maybe starting point would be an assessment, like Lauren, like Councilor Hanchar is asking, you know, look at roads that are shorter, small pieces that maybe we could do. Maybe there's pieces we could turn to
Just do-
gravel. Maybe there's,
Full end of town here that
yeah.
doesn't have
maybe
water,
there-
sewer.
Maybe there is something. I just don't want to leave it. You know, I don't want it to be ignored. So
I also just think it's hard to know.
maybe there's a funding pot that we can use to create an assessment. Just get on that list of, you know, it's the same thing like any of our other funding pots. If we have the plan and there's all of a sudden $65 billion worth of mobile infrastructure available, we are first on the list.
Yeah,
Okay? That's what I'm asking. That's what I want.
thank
I
you.
would appreciate to see. I shouldn't say want. So, it's- Okay, is there anything else for Councillor Open Forum?
Not for me, thank you.
All right, so now we get to see all the comments from the gallery open forum.
We just open, worship, instead of reopening them, we just open it up.
Sure, let's do that. Okay, so there's nobody in the gallery here currently, so I'll just read the list from the participants on Zoom. And first on the list is Angela. Do you have any comments for us this evening? You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, no, I'm just wondering, you guys are talking about the YTG properties not having the taxes raised for their properties or whatever, and I'm just wondering if Yukon Housing is a part of that situation.
Your worship, that's where I was very careful as what I was saying, because we don't know if Yukon Housing has been addressed. That's why I said, just a few Yukon government properties that I looked at. I know the Liquor Corp has gone up and I haven't looked at Yukon Housing. So they're separate entities under the government, so I can't commit any comment to that right now, Angela.
But they're doing.
Okay,
an
well,
investigation.
But we're doing an evaluation of all properties.
yeah, and that's fair. And when do you think that you would have some sort of an assessment about that?
I'm not sure, it'd have to come back to council. It would be a legal thing for council to discuss before it would go public, so it would be an in-camera matter and I'm not sure what the date that would be for release.
Okay, so that would be something that I can ask at a future council meeting?
Yeah, once council made a decision on it, then it would come forward for public. It would be brought forward on the agenda.
Okay.
You can ask anytime.
Anything else,
Okay.
Angela?
What else did I write on there? I think I had another. Yeah, no, I was just wondering about the social housing and the Yukon Housing, whether that fell under YTG. So, and also I suppose the permits for having, of course, Dan, my father-in-law's got an old Jeep sitting outside of his house or an old tow truck sitting outside of his house. Would that be something that would be grandfathered in, or is that something that he has to get a permit for?
Actually, Angela, that was brought up in the town hall meeting and actually Dan had got a permit to have that stuff there, so.
Okay, so somebody in that situation though, who's maybe had something on their lawn that is a lawn ornament type situation, would that be something that they still would have to get a permit for if it was, 30 years sitting there type of thing, or?
I guess we'd have to assess them case by case because it comes down to if it's a safety issue and that type of thing, so it would have to be.
Where it might be exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's in that new bylaw, but it's some of that stuff that's been deferred for clarity yet.
And that's what I was advocating for, Angela.
Yeah, no, and I hear you for sure. I mean, it's not like it's a derelict vehicle sitting there waiting for repair. It's a lawn ornament. I mean, we could go down to the fact that there's toilets in a yard that, are plant holders or something, right? So it just depends on how we're viewing that. Because I know there is some really nice lawn ornaments that could be considered junker vehicles, I suppose. So yeah, so I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. Yeah, and I thought we already had just through the grapevine. I don't know any facts or anything, but I thought through the grapevine we already had like an 8-year road plan. And I was hearing through the grapevine that Y Drive here was one of one of the roads that was gonna start being repaired?
Well, yeah, so the work.
Yeah.
The work has, we've done assessments on all the streets in Watson Lake. Y Drive is slated for not this year, but it was, if the funding was available or the federal government makes a funding announcement in the spring, then Y Drive is in stage or phase 2, stage 2. So it would be the next one that's in our priority list.
And that was my comment on our in-ground infrastructure plan. I was exaggerating when I said 20 years. I should. Yeah, but
Okay, so I was-
10-year.
Okay, so I did hear kind of correctly that it could be an 8-year plan or whatever, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it was in the plan. It's just the fact that the feds stopped the funding flow, so.
Okay, no, that's fair. And I guess if like I'll do a little bit more homework, obviously, because it affects me directly, but I do kind of have to be in a loop at some point because I do believe that we're not wide enough here at my stretch of the road for me not to have an interruption with my property.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Sure. Yep.
Okay. So yeah, I guess I'll just sort of, keep in the loop and wait for those facts to come down the pipe, I guess.
You bet.
Okay, cool.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry if you wouldn't, thank you. And Button, do you have any questions or comments about this evening? You have to unmute. Okay, we'll move to Janice. Do you have any comments for this evening?
No comment.
Okay, just a comment.
And Patty?
It won't let me. Okay,
Hello,
Hi, Patty. We'll
hello,
come back-
thank you.
Just 1 second. We'll come back to Button. She does have comments, but I just wanted to know.
I'd have to unmute her.
Okay, so go ahead, Patty.
Okay. I don't have any questions tonight, thank you.
Oh.
Okay.
Sounded like you were gonna say a lot.
We're ready.
Did your
Hey.
fridge get moved? I forgot all about it.
Yes. Button says she wrote it down.
Wrote it down?
Yeah.
This is a mute. I have all my glasses.
Abby's still not unmuted. Button was referring to your worship, that was a snow blowing comment about blowing snow on the neighbors, said rocks and debris on our beautiful lawn. And when they did our sewer line, the fire break, they blocked the fire break with a concrete block. That is where we took our loads of snow. Also, there is a barricade. Also, the barricade is going to kill skidooers. Whose responsibility? It's a YG street and yeah, it's blocked, so I'll have to look into that one. Okay. And that one was about the derelict vehicles or the vehicles. And can you get the garbage off my tax bill? And then back into the snow. What is it going around?
No.
There we go. Yes, that one. So that was the question.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay, great. That will end our gallery open forum. There's no in camera.
Okay.
But and adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I will
Second that.
Answer and show of hands. Get all in favor.
Right.
Thank you, everybody.
You.